Welcome, folks, to Reality Gurus, the show we take a commonsensical approach to issues through complex conversation. I'm your host, E. Cleve. Listen, first off, Happy New Year to everybody out there. Hopefully, I had a good, safe time over the holidays, whether if you celebrated or not. But it's a time for family, friends, getting together, things of that nature. But we are back. We got some stuff going on. I got my fellas, Anya and DB, on the phone. Fellas, Reality Gurus, Happy New Year. How you fellas doing, man? What's going on with y'all today?
Chilling. Happy New Year's. If I had one to blow, I would blow it right now.
Well, let's go ahead and just, get this out of the way. Last night, the Dallas Cowboys happened to play in their wild card game, right? And they kind of put the Seattle Seahawks to shame. Y'all need to kiss the star. I mean, any one of you, hating Cowboy fans out there, kiss that star, right? Kiss that star. Yeah. Anyway, let me put that to the side right here. Let's go ahead and get into something a little more important, something a little more serious. Let's go ahead and jump into the situation we have now with the government shutdown. Trump. It's been going on a couple of weeks now that the government has been partially shut down, which is caused some issues because they had to furlough a lot of federal employees. Nobody's getting checks. And one of the things that Trump said is that this thing could last months, even years. I mean, when I saw that thing, even years, it, kind of startled me a bit. But what do you guys think about that? Yay. What's going on, man? How you feel about this government shutdown?
Man, it's crazy. I know a lot of people that are affected by this. A lot of people. And, I mean, it seems like Trump is playing off the fear factor in it all. But then again, we don't know this dude's temperament. How long could this shit last? To the rich at the top, who it really doesn't affect like that, it probably means nothing to them. But for your everyday working government employee, they like, bro, what the hell? This is really messing, my life up. So it's getting real right now, man. Everybody's trying to look for those extra resources out there to feed their families.
DB, I know some federal employees, and you're actually also in the federal system yourself. What do you guys, what's the talk amongst you guys with the situation with the shutdown and how you guys are feeling about it?
Every day, everybody that I know pretty much is saying tomorrow I might not come to work. I mean, the unpredictability is crazy because, it puts you in a situation like me, myself, especially, since we started doing this and I started trying to make moves outside of work. I kind of realized just having a regular 9 to 5 is kind of, it's kind of limiting anyway because you're stuck in the structure. You're stuck basically dependent on somebody else. Same thing with a government job. So that's not a surprise to me. The problem with a government shutdown, though, it puts you in a competition because now you're thinking about long-term goals for short-term goals. So basically now it comes to a point where I got to start thinking about how I'm going to pay my bills next month. I'm putting competition where eventually going to work is going to be expense because I got to think about spending gas. I got to think about the time that I'm wasted, possibly getting paid instead of actually getting paid. That it becomes a thing where you got to think about survival, and that's pretty much what I'm hearing from everybody because that unpredictability of not necessarily getting your money. And when you expect your money to come, you can't make any plans. You can't say, I'm going to pay you this day, I'm going to pay you that day, because you don't know. And that sets people to a different frame of mind than that is unprecedented. And that's pretty much the vibe I'm getting. That's pretty much, honestly, I'm not there yet because, like I said, I've had my mind on other goals. But once it started really affecting me to the point where I had to start thinking about my relationships with a lot of creditors and these bankers and everything that I'm probably going to be put in that same position.
Yeah. Well, let me hop over here. So let's talk about the reason behind the shutdown. So evidently, Trump is looking for $5 billion to erect this wall. That originally, when he campaigned, he said that Mexico would pay for it. So somehow, that pipe dream, didn't happen, and now he's come to the American people looking for funding, and because the Democrats have decided that it's not worth it, we shut down. So this is the thing that I wanted to ask with regard to Trump and taking his stance to decide to shut the government down because he's not getting funding for something he thinks is going to protect the country. I kind of wonder, what do you think about a president? Forget about Trump and personally. What do you think about a president that stands his ground in a situation like this, saying, "Listen, this wall is for the betterment of the country, and I'm not going to allow some Democrats to jeopardize this opportunity here." What do you guys think about this? Shay, let's start with you, man. How do you feel about that? What do you think how do you feel about a president who stands his ground in a situation like that when he feels like it has directly to do with the security of the nation?
I mean, that's a tough one because, it actually kind of makes sense to me.
Right.
But, I'm stuck in between a rock and a hard place if I'm a person that it actually affects me. You know what I'm saying? Him trying to achieve what he's trying to achieve. But if he's saying that this is what needs to be done for the betterment of the people of the country, that's what he needs to do. Going back to the people got to understand that he's going to do what he feels he needs to do for supposedly the country or maybe the 1% of the country. So the people have to understand that we have to do what's best for us and let this be a lesson that, hey, you're in survival, you're in struggle mode now, whether that be just finding another job just to get you by for now. But what you need to be doing is looking towards the long term, which the long term solution for me and a lot of people is going to have to be entrepreneurship, getting your own business to where you are controlling your own destiny, to where someone like this cannot just dictate, your finances for right now, your family's survival, your family's well-being for right now.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Like for me, like one of my biggest criticisms, what I thought with Obama was that he didn't stand tall enough. Like I think he allowed himself to be bullied when he was in office. He allowed himself to be bullied, and a lot of the things that the country felt like laws and stuff that should have been passed and never got through was because he acquiesced. I think that he didn't stand tall like he should have. So that's the reason I ask about how do you feel about a president who stands tall, regardless of what kind of I hate to say it this way, what kind of casualties or whatever. But how do you feel about that, DB? You know what I'm saying? When you compare it to like an Obama who wasn't as willing to stand tall in situations like this.
Generally, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think basically just the same as Trump might feel this is the betterment of his country, the same thing Democrats feel the same way. That's why we have a standoff now. And I think that doesn't necessarily lead to what possibly this is meant for, or possibly any part of the government that has these checks and balances is meant for, which is basically negotiation. Because people are taking just enough, too much of a stance to where you block everything out. Like basically, I want what I want, and I'm not going to make any kind of changes or make any kind of turn around because this is what I want. So I think that's when it becomes a problem. Especially when we're talking about as far as the government shutdown, the bargaining chip is people's lives. This is not necessarily anything else besides people having to figure out how to make a living. You know what I mean? Like these are the people that we signed a contract and made an obligation. So I think that becomes a problem. As far as the Obama thing, I think as far as if we want to compare Obama to Trump, I think there are differences mainly for the fact of, there's no way around it. The racial factor. I think the fact is that Obama had to do things certain ways that Trump is able to do out front. Basically because of Obama was the first black president. And I think the way that he did it was not necessarily what people would want, which is basically maybe taking that hard stance, like, I'm the president, I could do whatever. And he kind of did with executive orders. But he didn't do it on camera, which I think people sometimes get caught up in the fanfare too much in actually what's actually happening. I think people are getting caught up in the fanfare of Donald Trump because he's a showman that's seeing what is actually beneficial to people. I hear a lot more people talking about how they, at least his supporters anyway, talking about how they respect Donald Trump, because he's no nonsense and he says what he wants than
Yeah.
actually what his policies are. So I think that becomes a problem when we get caught too much in the showmanship than actually what's happening and what's going on. So I
Yeah.
think that's an issue that needs to be handled or need to be looked at differently.
Okay, well then let's ask this question then. So everybody's pointing fingers at Trump, right? But there's another side to this thing. That there's things that the Democrats could actually do, so that we can,
Right.
the government can be, reopened and stuff. So what kind of responsibility do the Democrats have to take in not doing what needs to be done to kind of bring a speedy resolution to this situation? How you feel about that? I mean, since everybody's, if you're pointing the finger at Trump because he shut the government down, right? He's saying, like, if you do this, then I'll open the government. You understand? Now, if the Democrats are the ones that have to make the decision to go ahead and do that, and they're not, my question is, what responsibility would they have to take, especially when DB states that we're talking about people's lives here?
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, I just wanted to stretch the question out a little bit more, but I was asking, initially. Either one of y'all, though. I mean, I guess I want to know, what do people feel, or what you guys feel about, with the Democrats? Like, what accountability do they have? You know what I'm saying? If
Well,
Go ahead.
You got it, Dan.
me personally, I was saying that that's why I say the double-edged sword, because I think once because this to me is not something that started with Trump. It started with Obama,
Yeah.
because people were trying to, I heard something earlier today about basically Mitch McConnell saying that how he wanted Obama to be a one-term president. So part of that was to not give him anything that he wants, so it looks good on his part presidentially. I think it's the same thing with Trump. I think it's a matter of not necessarily doing what's better for the country or trying to get a negotiation to keep things moving. It's more about making the other person look bad.
Yeah.
And I think they just have just as much as blame. Like, I think, same thing I said before. Like, part of this is part of any of the stuff that we have in government, as a democracy, was supposedly set up to not necessarily have one power lean towards one way. So basically, what I mean, it's supposed to bring people to the negotiating table. So if you now have this situation where everybody is saying, no, I want this, no, I want this, then we're just banging heads. We're at a stalemate. So this is not what it's supposed to be. This is basically on everybody at a certain point. Trump can say what he wants. Democrat can say what he wants. But what are y'all both saying when y'all sitting at the table? What are y'all talking about when it comes to American people? What are y'all talking about when it comes to, in the situation right now, to government workers? I mean, they, to me, do have just as much as blame as.
Well, I mean, I asked that question, because there's something that they could do. You understand what I'm saying? It's not as if he asked, to, and this is not me defending, Trump or anything like that, but I mean, it's not like he asked for permission to drop a nuke on another country. You understand what I'm saying? He's asking for funding, right?
Yeah.
He's asking for funding for something that he feels is, in the best interest for the national security and stuff. So, I think the Democrats, have to pay attention to that. And and even though they may feel like they're giving him what it is that he wants, at the end of the day, like you said, DB, it's about the people. So I will put this out there. I did see some ads and stuff out there for any government workers who, being that we don't know what's going on with the with the opening or whatever. If financially things become an issue, I did see some ads for like some financial institutions, maybe like federal credit unions. I even think I saw Wells Fargo might have been on the list. There was some opportunities out there for no interest, like no interest, not low, L-O-W, no, N-O, interest loans and stuff. So if you guys want to go ahead and do some research on that, that would probably.
Can I add on real quick? Because you made a good point about as far as thinking about entrepreneurship. I think this also is a opportunity for people, especially once you get back on board, once we start getting a paycheck again, hopefully soon, that you need to start thinking outside of just your regular paycheck. You need to start thinking about how to secure a funding outside of just getting that paycheck weekly or bi-weekly or however you get paid. Because you can't trust on the security of somebody else. So I just want to add that because, with you, Jay, you're making a good point that this is something that people got to make an effort to look outside of because, once it comes to you having to pay people, you have to make a conscious effort about, okay, how I'm going to do things because you're not setting the normal structure that you are. So take this opportunity now, and especially in the future when you start getting money, to start making plans outside of your regular everyday.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and we'll move on from this one to another story that was pretty interesting. I thought your man, Mr. LeBron James, on his show, The Shop, for what I think was the first time in history, an athlete of his his popularity, his skill set, actually jumping out and stating that he was the GOAT, referring to after he won the championship in Cleveland against the Warriors in 2016. He considered that, it's out of his own mouth. At that point, that's when he says that he was the greatest of all time to play this game, man. I was taken aback, especially since, like I said, I've never heard of a star, in any sport, actually coming out and saying something like that. They usually take the humble route, but he's entitled to say what what he has to say. He does have an argument, but your man MJ actually commented on it, and he said it actually made him cringe. He says that with the fact that there's so many great players that have come before him that he didn't have the liberty to play against, he kind of feels like it's unfair to consider himself as the greatest of all time, and he thought it was kind of reckless and irresponsible by the one King James. Why
real quick before you start the audio, why I feel like for some reason it's subliminally Michael Jordan when he's saying the before him is talking about himself. But go ahead.
That's fair enough.
He's like don't forget about me, youngster. I did play before you. Well, yeah, man. I mean, we have such a short memory, man. Come on, man. It was this dude by the name of Muhammad Ali who always said he was the greatest. True indeed, he had times where he gave props to what is it? Sugar Ray Robinson as the greatest of all time. But we heard him saying again and again, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest. I don't have no problem with it, man. The man is arguably the greatest of all time. Like you said, he said it before during that final series in 2016. And hey, he's standing in front, pounding his chest, saying it again. I'm the greatest of all time. Maybe that's some self-motivation for himself. Maybe people just need to get out of their feelings. That's how he motivates himself to be better.
I mean, here's what's crazy is because what other motivation does he need? Or like at this point, I think LeBron has done shit, man. You take away the championships, the fact that he doesn't have 6, right? What hasn't he accomplished? You know what I'm saying? If you take away the fact that he doesn't have 6 rings, he is a champion. He has 3 of them, but what else hasn't he done? So my thing is, even if this is like some self-motivate, what is he motivating himself to get to? At what point? I mean, realistically, Father Time is undefeated, and I don't think he's going to go any further past this contract. I don't think he should. At this contract in LA. I think he should just go ahead and finish out this contract, whatever championships he attains within the next 4 years, take that right off of the sunset, go back to Cleveland, run for office, stay in Los Angeles, become a movie star, whatever you want to do. But I kind of think that. So what motivation? What else? What else is he trying to get to? As far as the basketball standpoint. What else? What else can he do? What else can LeBron James do besides win 3 more championships? What else? Because I mean,
I mean, me personally, man, I think about it like the same way I think about it like with any rapper. I don't, I'm a big fan of Talib Kweli, and in one of the verses he said that he don't know any rich rappers that they get paid off of other shit than rap. You know what I mean? They get paid off of clothes, they get paid off of liquor, they get paid off of other interests. I think that's pretty much the only way he could go. Like eventually, he's not going to be able to be a player at a certain point because people get old. You know what I mean? People get injuries. People are not going to be able to play the game the same way. That is going to be his outside investments. As far as people, he's already started solidifying that a little bit with opening the school. Depending on how people feel about the school, like he's trying to get to the community. I think that's what his route is. I don't know if he's going to go as far as being a politician. That doesn't seem his route, but I feel like maybe he's going to try to get more to his community some way somehow. But just also to touch on your point, man, I think it's weird when people are actually looking at the part of being the greatest of all time, but sports in nature is competitive.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's supposed to be a competitive shit. Like somebody eventually, I mean, that's the reason why we got playoffs. That's the reason why we have all these champions and shit. Like somebody is going to be or supposed to be named the best at the end of all of it. You know what I mean? So if he sees himself that way, then what's the problem? Like even if you don't think it's true, that is something as far as a mind state within the game. Like I don't see any fighter. You know what I mean? Because the only sports I really watch is MMA. I don't see any fighter going into a fight not thinking they can win the fight.
Right.
You know what I mean? I the same thing. Like if you're going to be in this game for a while, you're playing this game for a while. I don't see how basically you're going to jump into the competition and pretty much not think you're the best player ever. Like even if you're not LeBron James, if you're like on the bench, I don't see how you go into the game not thinking you're the best motherfucking player ever. You know what I mean? It's just people are proven better than others. You know what I mean?
And to add on to that too, I mean, he's still human, man. With all that he's accomplished, it kind of hurts him that a lot of people don't respect him as the best or the greatest of all times. It kind of gets to him that they still going to put Michael over him. Some going to still put Magic. Some going to still put Kareem over him. It's a very egotistical business. You want to know that you are, undisputedly the greatest of all time. And to hear all these arguments that LeBron ain't the greatest because of this factor and this factor, it gets to him. And it shows from, a statement as such, because if you were secure and confident in knowing that you're the greatest of all time, you don't have to say it.
I tell you what, man, I just think, the biggest thing is the fact that people are figuring that he's no longer humble. I mean, y'all gotta be honest. LeBron is going through a real change these last couple years, man. As if, I guess the ego and just after that Cleveland situation, man, the title, he's been saying some really controversial things. You know what I'm saying? Like even if we jump off for a minute, how he talked about the lyric from 21 Savage's song, about the Jewish money and all of that, getting that Jew, so like that's like he apologized later, but I'm kind of wondering, is that something you think you would have heard from him a few years ago, like prior to him winning that title in Cleveland? I just think he got a different attitude about him.
Definitely so. I mean, and that's a sign of the times that we're in, from the president down to the best athlete in the world or in this country or whatnot. That hey, maybe we need to get away from the politically correctness that we've come from generations from. And maybe we need to just be more outspoken and say what's on your mind, because that's what the people have been wanting for so long. We've been complaining about all these politicians and athletes who are too politically correct, who avoid social issues. Now we finally getting a president that says what the hell he wants to say, and an athlete that's getting to the point where he's fearless and saying what the fuck he wants to say. Look at the comment that he made about the NFL owners being it's like slave owners.
That's another one. Like I said,
the best athletes.
It's just a different type of a confidence, man, and an attitude. I just hope that because we've seen recent history, distant history, that once it seems like you're getting a little too so-called big for your britches, something, like right now, LeBron's been, no scandals. You understand what I'm saying? No scandals, family man, high school sweetheart kid, son flourishing in basketball, things like that, right? Role model, when you start hearing his name, being put in the news and controversy, controversial comments and stuff is attached to it, I just, kind of makes me, wonder if, he's just getting to a point where he's like, I could do whatever the hell I want and can't nobody tell me nothing. But
I think that's a great place to be, though, man. I think we need more of that. I think we need to a point where, I forgot who said it, but somebody was saying how I think it was Sinbad. I think I was listening to, and he was saying that there's a point where you get to a point of having fuck you money.
Right.
You know what I mean? A point of basically like it doesn't matter what you say because nobody can take you off your pedestal. I think we need more people that is at that limit of the having that fuck you money to say some shit that we might need to hear. And if LeBron James is that person, I hope that happens, man. I hope somebody sticks with it on that level that can actually break some of the monotony and not necessarily get caught up in the industry that they're in enough where they always got to backtrack or always got to limit what they say, what they believe in.
And that started to sound like, to me, the true meaning of freedom of speech, or at least that's trying to get there, because it's going to motivate these kids to say, hold up, man. LeBron James is saying what's on his mind. I'm gonna take it another level. I'm gonna say everything that's on my mind. Just trying to get a sense of pride. He's gonna motivate these kids to say, hold up, especially speaking to LeBron, speaking what we feel on his be truth to power. I'm gonna take it another level. I'm gonna say everything that's on my mind. Just trying to get a sense of pride. He's gonna motivate these kids to say, hold up, especially speaking to LeBron, speaking what we feel on his.
I'm still here. Well, I tell you what, man. I was looking at the chat. Looked like a couple of individuals had jumped in here. I was wondering if I was going to pose a question out there, but what I think I'll do is we'll just move. Just like I said, just in and out. Nobody actually said anything. I was just kind of thinking if I was going to ask a question specifically about this, but I think I'm going to take this time to move on to the topic at hand. The one that I'm pretty sure, has been destroying everybody's timeline within the last couple days and stuff, man. Really, people have got to be getting tired of this stuff. But, it was a 5-day documentary or something like that, 6-part series or whatever. But, surviving R. Kelly on Lifetime. Let's start here, man. We've already seen some interviews from R. Kelly, talking about his past, his challenges with molestation, in the past and stuff like that. So, I want to put that out initially because everything that I've seen so far has been, absolutely negative. With regard to R. Kelly, everything is negative. I haven't seen a positive comment, meme, or anything. You know what I'm saying? Since the airing of this show and stuff. And I want to mention that first, or preface it with that first, just because if that is true, that he was victimized as a youngster, that has to be put into the conversation. When you start making judgments or assessment about the whole thing. But like getting into the show specifically, man, the most disturbing thing about this, for me was it just seemed like it was out in the open. None of this seemed like it was like it was quiet, so to speak. It was saying like him showing up to schools with like entourages and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And pointing out certain young girls. Oh yeah, I want to talk to you or meet. Like it seemed like this was like he was a celebrity walking around doing this in this town. And if people did have issues with it, nobody was really fucking saying anything, man. What was you guys' take on, I don't know how many parts of this show that you've seen. I haven't seen the whole thing. But I'm just wondering, like, what do you guys, what do you take on this reemergence of this R. Kelly situation? How do you guys feel about this shit?
Well, as far as me, you already know where I'm gonna go with it. If anybody watches the show, I'm gonna blame it on my wife because she's into that kind of stuff. So I watched it through her, and most of the information I got is funneled through her, because she's been up on it from a long time. Because she even read his autobiography, so that's how she know about the molestation stuff as well. So that's how I found out about it. I think, man, there's so many factors. Really, honestly, I don't even know where to start. That because some of the stuff you mentioned. Is stuff that is known. There's stuff that people was complacent with. There's stuff that up till now that people did not say anything, still not saying anything. Because even with this documentary coming on, there's a lot of celebrities that I've heard declined to be part of this. Certain people like Jay-Z and Questlove, and all the people who were contacted to join this. And the only real big names that joined was people like John Legend and Sparkle. So there were a few people that decided not to be part of this. So, for whatever reason. I think I kind of forgot the original question, but I think part of my takeaway from all of this, as far as the reemergence and the documentary, which makes it difficult for me, is that because this documentary clearly has an agenda. Even from the name of Surviving R. Kelly, shows where the mind state is, and especially when you watch some of the videos, and the women who are speaking about the situation are co-survivors. We're not saying that they're not. That it shows you that there is a clear message that they're trying to put across. There is a clear goal that they're trying to reach. That I think sometimes. In the age that we are now with the Me Too movement, where some ways could dilute what you're actually trying to do. I'm not in the least defending R. Kelly, and to be honest with you, with the majority of this, especially since I was young, when the original situation with the statutory rape happened, there's a lot of things that I didn't know that was actually going on. That this video, this document series kind of put me onto.
For instance, give me an idea. For instance,
for one, like even though I knew that he put out music around the time that it was happening, I didn't know that he was doing it actually when he was in fucking court. Like I didn't know the Ignition remix came out while he was going through court. I didn't know because I know about I Believe Like a Fly, and I thought that happened afterwards. But it made me think that, in some ways that he may lie to the shit. Like, in some ways, he kind of knew his status. You know what I mean? Where that in some way, especially when you see, like, some of the juxtaposition where they did with some of the newsreels at the time. Because they had a lot of stuff that they was interviewing people and all this other stuff on news shows. That you see that his status kind of gave him a lot of power that he was actually able to I think feel invincible.
Well, I mean,
that was
one of the things is some of the females in there were saying things like that, about the power trip. That he kind of was on, that invincibility feeling. And that's the thing. Like, how do how do you get that type of confidence? You know, if the people around you aren't complicit, that's what I'm trying to understand. So, you know, the question being, you know, what was so surprising to me that it just didn't seem like it was a quiet thing. Like this. Okay, of course, if we're not in the town or around R. Kelly, you know, we don't hear about this shit. You know what I'm saying? But even with regard to the people who have come up in the situation, have been around it, you know, close family, friends, or whatever, it didn't see like if this shit was going on for we're talking 20 fucking years, man. That it first came out. So how long was it going on before it first came out? So the fact that you know, here's the thing, man. I don't want to see anybody. You know, I don't wish like jail on people. You understand, or imprisonment on people. But it makes me wonder why wasn't this issue or a bigger issue back then? One of the females on the show had stated that was because it was black females that were being victimized. And that was probably the reason why. So, you know, again, like that was what my question was. Like, you know, it just seemed like it wasn't quiet. And like, why the fuck do you think that is? Like,
and gee, this is a big reason why Me Too even exists now. You know, at first I wanted to think that, hey, you know, he was just getting off of this because he had money and power, and people don't want to disrespect the money and power that's close to possibly feeds them, that could give them an opportunity. But we got to look at our community. A lot of our families are just human nature. This has existed within family structures, within communities where people just keep quiet about this type of stuff, and it's not right. There needs to be a voice for this. You know, we need to empower the women that go through this, but also men that see this need to stand up, especially men that see this shit. You know, like, hey man, that dude got money and power, but fuck that. That's wrong that you're doing this young lady like this. This is not right. You know, we have to stand up and take a stance against this.
Yeah, and I agree because I think I mean there's a lot of parallels because I watch last year a documentary about Harvey Weinstein. There is a few parallels I see as far as the power structure, but a lot of that power comes from us because the fact is he is an artist, right? He is somebody that, you know, if you think about you know what the fucked up part is? Honestly, throughout the documentary,
what's that?
for the last 2 days, I cannot get the Ignition remix out of my head. I've been singing that shit for the last 2 fucking days. And made me realize how much his music is part of our lives. You know what I mean? Like, you think about, I think part of the docuseries mentioned how, you know, Step in the Name of Love is played in wedding songs. You know what I mean? Like in you know, it's part of our culture that I think we tend to overlook a lot of shit. We tend to overlook it because, you know, it's a soundtrack to whatever we got going on in the background. That we tend to give these people a leeway, man. We tend to actually be like, you know, yeah, they did some fucked up shit, but you know, can we just overlook it for whatever reason? And I think that's a fucked up way to look at it. Even now, like I know you say you don't see anything positive about it, but there's a few people I have seen posting, at least about the whole black and white shit, about, you know, the same thing about if it was a white girl, you would have been basically locked up a long time ago. But I also see things about like, okay, what happened to the white people that are doing the same thing? Why are they not judged and scrutinized the same way? And in some way, I can't help but think, like, does it fucking matter? Like, at the end of the day, like, you know, especially with R. Kelly, I can understand maybe the argument from other people, even though I can't say I would necessarily agree. But this is somebody who was, in my words, playing on black girls, right? A young black girl, especially if we're talking about 13-year-olds and so forth. That he was kind of damaging the black community at the same time. Like it wasn't necessarily like he was harming anybody else. He was causing harm to our own community. Where how do you split that in between? Like how do you say, you know, he's good for the black community at the same time that he's harming the black community? You know, and I think that's one of the issues that we have.
the argument goes back to mental health once again. Mental health from his standpoint of, we see that when we go back in his story, these are the things that he went through as a child. And so part of this lifestyle comes from that, not giving him an excuse for it, but also reassessing our mentality. Yes, he was great. He's great at fucking music, but this man is sick. He's mentally and emotionally, psychologically sick. He needs to be dealt with. He needs help. Do we say as a community that we still support him? We still support his music, or do we just shun his music altogether? Can we separate the actions of the person from the music, from the artist? We've seen this again and again with many different figures in our community, whether it be from certain people's perspective, certain pastors in our community. Hell, we seen drug dealers in our community that we knew for years was feeding the community drugs, but because they give turkeys sometimes and they giving toys to the kids, they helping certain people out with their rent. We still praise them, we still love them. We fall in love with the abusers and sickness that we have in ourselves that probably goes even back to the plantation.
Let's ask this question here, man, because I gotta be honest, man. When I start thinking about, like I said, all the people who were around him, noticing what he was doing, knew what he was interested in, knew what he was doing, and wasn't saying anything. It starts to make me think about, like, in my own childhood, man. Like, I saw some stuff on, across the feed, where, you got these memes and stuff, but there was a couple that, kind of made me, like, think with regard to, like, say, for instance, some of these females pointing their fingers at R. Kelly, calling him a child molester or whatever, right? But some of those females were some of those same girls that were getting picked up from school, junior high school, early in high school, by some older males and stuff. So it's a little hypocritical there, right? And I think about it, man, and when that was first brought up, man, I started to think about it, man. I can just think right now, or count on my hand a few girls that I know that I go into school with that had older, males as boyfriends and stuff like that, man. But again, at that age, you're not thinking, like if I'm 14, 15, 16, at that age, I'm not thinking that it's crazy. I'm asking the question as far as these adults that were around watching R. Kelly do this. And they weren't saying anything. And if they were, they was keeping it amongst themselves, not putting it out there. And then, 20-something years later, now we have a documentary like this, man. I just wonder, It looks like we have a question here from Mr. Ramsey. What does he say? Could the problem of R. Kelly be the fact that men are void of emotion? Men are void of emotion. Well, let me toss that over you to DB. How you feel about that? Mr. Ramsey wants to know, could the problem with R. Kelly be the fact that men are void of emotion?
No. I think men run on different emotions. I think a lot of it, and this is. A lot of it is not maybe about emotions, about different motivations. I think, and this might be stereotypical, but I think for most men, it's a matter of, when it comes to dealing with women, right, it's a matter of sex. Right. Compared to maybe most women, it might be a matter of relationship. And I think we might split the difference between that by saying it's emotions. But I think generally, if it's just about sex, then that's how we have situations like R. Kelly. And not saying that, relationships can't come out of it, because, we talked about the act of pedophilia before, and we talked about certain aspects of it, especially in America, in the past, about having young brides, and even now, having certain states where you can actually marry pretty young if you have parental consent. That there is still a mind state of that relationship, but when it comes down to me personally, I think it's a matter of sex. It's a matter of physical attraction. It's not a matter of maturity. It's not a matter of anything else. I think with us as men, that's how we think. I think we just think about that initial reaction, and whatever happens after happens after. I think we don't go into a situation with a woman automatically thinking about a relationship. I think that comes with a matter of time. So I don't necessarily think it's
Gotcha,
emotional.
gotcha. Follow up question, a comment from Ramsey is, he says he thinks women think emotionally and men think logically. I'm not sure exactly how it plays into this, but that's his assessment that when he think women think emotionally and men think logically. So, yeah,
Yeah, that would be up for a woman to answer. I can't
mhm.
speak for a woman on that. So
Hey, and G, just to go back to the original question, this is something that I hate that we do too as a society. Because ultimately, what we're doing with R. Kelly is we're really just playing the guessing game, and we're trying to just put a lot of different pieces together. Ultimately, the person that's going to find the true answers behind all of this is when he sits his ass down with a fucking psychiatrist and they dig deep into his past and into his mind. If he could be honest about what's really going on. I mean, generally speaking, how men behave, I want to just say this is animalistic, but I can't say that because I don't know him personally. I don't know. A part of it
Mhm.
could be emotional. What is attracting him to these young girls? It could be more than just the physical.
but
It could be
even
actual.
with that, I would say it's probably more biological, like or even mental, like you said. Like if he did have the situation where he had the molestation,
Yeah.
then that is something to dig in deeper. There is a lot of deeper issues as far as
Well,
R. Kelly
yeah.
himself.
Well, let's. All right. So even if we go to the mental, like I'm not even going to say as in mental, like he has like some mental health issues. That's possible, but let's go to this part. Like maybe his affinity for these young girls comes from as he's already put out publicly that he doesn't read that well. So with the fact that I think there was someone, I think Nick Cannon had stated in an interview somewhere that because he knows R. Kelly personally, um, and with regard to the fact that he doesn't read that well, that he has some form of illiteracy. Nick Cannon's thought was like, what woman as is R. Kelly really going to mentally stimulate, after they, turn off the music. You understand what I'm saying? He's a genius musically, but as far as communicating,
Exactly.
his social skills probably poor. So, that it might just be one of them situations where that's just pretty much who he can attract, who he can stimulate mentally. You know what I'm saying?
And, and, and let me add to that, G. There was I don't know if y'all seen this picture. It was like a year or two ago where R. Kelly was literally dressed like a 17-year-old from the 90s with these baggy ass clothes, the fitted cap, the do rag, the Jordans and shit. And people were making memes and they was clowning them. Which part of it is funny, but part of it is sad because again, mental health. Just because a man is in his 40s and 50s, mentally he may not be in his 40s and 50s. Mentally, he could still be in his goddamn teenage to early 20 years, or think he's in his teenage to early 20 years, and that's why we all need help to get to the bottom of all of
Let
this.
me. Mm.
I kind of want to tap into some because Jay, you mentioned the whole episode about basically older men coming to pick up
Yeah,
younger
man.
girls in
Yeah.
high school. I think we kind of been tap dancing around the fact of this same topic, but because we're talking about specifically with R. Kelly, and I think the problem with having just focus on one person is that we don't look at this as a bigger issue all around. Like we could
Yeah,
talk about R. Kelly, we could talk about mental health and all that. Some of that stuff I won't disagree with because we're talking about somebody specifically, but that can't be for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like that. I know myself. I worked with somebody years ago that they told me that basically when they were in high school, they were about 17, and their husband was 20
Mm.
years older than them. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And this is back when they were dating in high school, and then they became husbands and had kids. So their relationship worked out. But that's a common theme where we got to start thinking about the community overall because this is not something that's uncommon to the community. R. Kelly is not uncommon to the community as we might think. We just might think because of the type of things that he did. Because we have the video seeing him, peeing on a little girl, which is horrifying in itself. But as far as just the overall acts of R. Kelly dating a younger girl, that's not that different.
yeah. Maybe the people that maybe the people that were around him maybe you got some of them like, you know what, hey, I don't have a problem with it because that's what I do, you know. Maybe certain people that were around him were like, "Hey, that's just the culture. It's been that way. It's gonna be that way." You know, it's just like you said. You know, he's just the big fish in the small pond. So now the question becomes: is that a part of our culture that we need to do away with, or we need to continue with, or we need to reevaluate and change up in some type of way? Because, like we said, with the high school scenario, you know, we all went to those high schools where the older dudes picking up these younger girls. It happened. It made us mad as young dudes, but it happened. And you know, I always ask the question, what's the difference between a girl that's 17 and a half and a girl that just turns 18? What really is the big difference? You know, if a dude waits until she gets out of high school and legally she's 18. I mean, technically she's still that 17 and a half year old.
Here's the thing, man. We have another comment by Christelle. Hopefully I pronounces that Christelle or Crystal. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. But with regard to where were their parents at age 14? And what I would say about that question, you know, I'm hearing that, you know, especially in this documentary, that was one of these females in here. I think it was his ex-wife who stated that she got an abortion because she didn't want her daughter to be victimized by, you know, R. Kelly.
I don't think it was his ex-wife. I think I know you're talking about. It was maybe like his backup dancer or something. I don't think it was his ex-wife.
Either way, you know, to answer her question, you know, Mr. Crystal's question, like if you think about that kind of a mindset, she would be that young girl's parent, you know, and if she thinks that way, you know, where is that young girl's defense? Like that woman or that female, she can't be an adequate parent if that's the way that she's thinking. I'm going to abort this child because, you know, I'm going to stay with this guy, but I don't want him to victimize the child. Let him continue to victimize me. That's I don't know, I don't even know how to describe that way of thinking. But yeah, Crystal, man, I mean, that was, you know, came straight out of the mouth of one of these alleged victims. You know, so, you know, the parenting, yeah, it's, I mean, for me, honestly, man, yeah, I can't see me having a 14-year-old daughter and, you know, that being, you know, some of the stuff that's going on. I just have to be a little more involved as a parent, you know what I'm saying? To you know, I don't know. What do you guys feel about that, the parent's role in this situation? Do you think that the parenting or, you know, these females didn't have a good parenting structure and that's probably why they fell into whatever alleged, you know, issues that they said he fell into?
Yeah, from their standpoint, definitely. And it's indictment on the black community on how, you know, there's just, oh man, the parenting, generally speaking, just it's not there. You know, it's a lot of households, of course, we know where the male isn't present. You know, a lot of women out here, they're doing the best that they can, you know, and hell, they're out of the house, they're at work. You know, you got TV raising your children. And so now we have to ask who are the influences or who are the people that are protecting these children, you know? And I mean, these children are out here to the world at a very young age. That's how they ended up in studios with R. Kelly or in these clubs or in these scenarios where they can be preyed upon by older guys or other influences of the world.
Right. Well, I tell you what, man, as unfortunate as it is, you know, there's probably a couple more episodes to this series to go through. We're pretty sure Facebook is going to keep us completely informed about what's going on. Maybe we'll go ahead and we'll follow it up on a future show. But I'll just say this, IADB, fellas, appreciate the call in. We're back for 2019 Reality Gurus. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Go ahead and jump on that YouTube page. And follow us on all, you know, social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm G. Cleve, Reality Gurus. Take care.